Good morning. Can you all hear me okay? I'm pretty soft-spoken, so I got to make sure I have a mic. All right, so my name is Katie Schopf, and I am a missionary appointee with Baptist Mid-Missions to Native American ministries in the Southwest, but I'm going to New Mexico. So first, I'd like to share my testimony, how I got saved, how the Lord led me to work with Native Americans, and then I'd like to show you a slideshow of what those ministries look like, and then open it up if you have any questions, all right? So I grew up here in Washington. I'm a true Washingtonian, but I grew up a little farther north up in Kirkland. My dad is a pastor, and I am one of 8 siblings. I'm smack dab in the middle, if you put me age-wise. So I kind of blended in, kind of did my own thing. I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters, so we did more of the guy stuff, working on cars, playing baseball, football, those kind of things. Both of my parents are believers. My mom was saved when she was 16. She came from a abusive alcoholic home, but God saved her out of that, and my dad grew up in Brazil as a missionary kid, and God saved him. Brought them together, and they taught us about the Lord as we were growing up. But as we learned this morning, just because your parents are Christians doesn't make you a Christian. And I came to find that out pretty quickly. So when I was a young girl, I don't remember how old I was. I just remember what happened. I was sitting in church just like you were. I was listening to my dad preach, and all of a sudden, a part of the sermon stuck out to me. It was on heaven and hell. And for the first time in my life, I realized I was not going to heaven, and I was going to be separated from God, and I did not want that. You know, in the Bible it says, "For all have sinned." That meant me. Even though I was a little girl, I had sinned against God personally. And the Bible also says, "For the wages of sin," or what we've earned for our sin, is death. So I had personally sinned against God, and what I had earned for my sin was death. But there's a really, really good verse in the Bible that says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, will not die, but have eternal life." So right there in that pew in my heart, I prayed to God, I put my trust in him, and he saved me. And then I was baptized at age 9. So I don't know what time I was saved, but I know I was saved before the age of 9. So then in high school, I actually walked away from God. I walked in sin, and I knew what I was doing, and I kept walking in that sin. I didn't care about my walk with the Lord until it got to the point where I was stuck, and I was going downhill, and I knew it, and I knew I couldn't get out by myself. And so I cried out to God, and again, he saved me from that. He took me out of that, he forgave me, and he set me on the narrow path again. So then he led me to a small Bible college in Arizona. Now, I had never been to the desert, to my knowledge, and when I got there, I couldn't stand it. And I was like, okay, I'm just doing a year of this. But the Lord kept bringing me back, and he actually turned my heart, and I came to love the desert. So while I was there at this small Bible college, I met a guy named Joey. Now, Joey was this tall, lanky, awkward Italian guy who came from a big family, really funny, always loved to help anybody in need. He had put his trust in Jesus Christ as his Savior, and we became really good friends. Well, every year, a group from my college would take a trip to the Grand Canyon. Has anyone here ever been to the Grand Canyon? Okay, so a few of you. So it's an awesome place, amazing place. And so my college would take a group, whoever wanted to, every year to take a hike in the Grand Canyon. So for my first 2 years of college, I didn't go. But then my 3rd year, I decided to go, and Joey was over the moon because we both were going. So we traveled with a group to the Grand Canyon, we camped overnight, and early the next morning, Joey and part of our group started the hike down to the bottom of the canyon. Me not being a hiker at that time, I stayed at the top rim with the rest of our group and just did touristy things. Well, hours later, we received a phone call, and it was about our hiking group. 3 of the guys from our hiking group had gone missing in the river at the bottom of the canyon, and Joey, my friend, was one of them. Joey and the other 2 had made professions of faith. They were Christians. They were young. They were healthy. But nobody is promised tomorrow. And God decided to take them home that day. They all drowned in the river. It was one of the hardest times in my life. It was a time that I could not go to anyone but God because he was the only one who understood. And that's when I came to know his love and comfort in a very personal way. So Joey's parents were missionaries in New Mexico, so we had his funeral service there, and I was able to go. After college, I moved back home with my parents thinking, I'm just going to be here for a month or two and on to the next big thing God has for me. And he's like, whoa, Katie, I want you to stay. I want you to learn more about me. I want you to serve in church. And I want to show you how I can be faithful and provide for your needs. So as months turned into years, I helped with my church. I helped with camp ministry, VBS ministry, teaching Sunday school, all in preparation for what he had next for me. So years had gone by, and there was a friend in my church who reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to go on a road trip to New Mexico in June? I was thinking, what in the world? This is coming out of nowhere. Well, there was a Bible camp, a small Bible camp that needed help that summer. So I really struggled to say yes to God, to going, because I hadn't been back since Joey's funeral, and I had never publicly shared about what had happened at the Grand Canyon, and this was years later. But he kept gently nudging me and eventually helped me to say yes to going. So in 2017, I took my first mission trip to Arizona and New Mexico. So what we do is we go to Arizona and we have a 3-night VBS on the Navajo reservation. And then what we did was we went across to New Mexico to the camp, and we got it ready for the campers. Now, I had never been to this camp before. I had never heard of this camp before. But when I got to this camp for the first time, I talked to the missionary pastor there. He and his wife have been there for many years. Come to find out, my friend Joey had gone there as a camper when he was a kid. And I had no idea. Joey had never told me. So we cleaned up the camp, got it ready, went back to Arizona, picked up kids, and brought them to camp. So here I was, God led me to this small little Bible camp in New Mexico. I had never been there, never heard of it, where Joey had gone as a kid, where I was getting to share for the first time God's love and what God had done at the Grand Canyon with kids that he would have grown up with, Native American kids. And God did all of that. And I've seen God use his story that he allowed throughout my life for his glory. So, since that first trip, I've had 4 other opportunities to go during the summers and help with the ministries, and I've really come to love the kids. Most of them come from broken homes, alcohol, abuse, suicide, and my heart just goes out to them. But it was in 2023 when I was on a mission trip that God laid a different burden on my heart for Native Americans. He showed me that the field was white for harvest. They were ready to hear, but that the laborers were few. The missionaries were few. There are only a handful of missionaries that I personally work with, reaching out to them, and all of them are within 10 years of retiring. And I just imagined when these ministries to the Native Americans would disappear. And I saw a Native man in my mind looking around, but nobody was there. Nobody was there to tell him the truth, and that was heavy on my heart. So I started to pray. You gotta be careful what you pray. So I started to pray for God to send more laborers, and then I stopped. And I realized I'm praying for more laborers to go, but I could be a laborer. And I prayed, if you want me to, please send me as a laborer. So since that time, God has shown me in amazing ways that that's where he wants me to go. That's what he wants me to do. So as a full-time missionary to Native Americans, I'll be working in the mission church there, the local mission church on the camp property. I'll be working with children's and women's ministries. I'll be working with the camp, hopefully VBS, and then reaching out to the community as well. So now I'd like to show you a slideshow of what those ministries look like and the people that I'll be working with. All right, so as I said, I'm a missionary appointee. That means I'm appointed to that field, but I haven't actually gone yet. I've gone on mission trips, but I'm not there as a full-time missionary yet. And Baptist Missions is my mission agency. They help me with a lot of things. They're not in charge of me, but they're part of my team that help me with things like my church can't do, okay? So this is the couple that I'll be working with. They've been working with Native Americans in the Southwest for over 25 years. This is Joe and Dawn Lee. So where is New Mexico? I actually get this question. People think I'm going to Mexico, but not quite. I'm still staying in the States. I'm in the Southwest region of the United States, all right? We do border Mexico, so I will need to brush up on Spanish. So New Mexico is the land of enchantment. It is a beautiful, beautiful place if you ever get a chance to visit. It's a land of interesting things. You got cactus you have to watch out for. You have roadrunners that you try and see before they run across the road, and then chili peppers. They love their chili peppers. And then it's also a land of diverse terrain. They have desert, they have mountains, they have plateaus, they have grasslands. I'll be living on a plateau up above 7,000 feet. That's where I will be living. So this is home to many Navajo. They are the largest Native American tribe in the U.S. These are some Navajo people that I have gotten to know and love, some campers. This is a Navajo pastor and his wife. That's where we hold the VBS. They are sweet, sweet people. They love to laugh. They have a great sense of humor, and they are very generous. They hold everything with a loose hand, and if they know you could use something, they will give it to you. Here's some facts about the Navajo. Their tribe is actually almost 400,000, so they are a very large tribe, but less than half of that actually live on the reservation. A lot of them have moved off of the reservation for jobs. It is the largest Native American reservation. The land it goes over 3 different states: Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. So I'll be in the New Mexico area. And then the reservation has their own president, police, Miss Navajo Nation. It's like our Miss America, and they have their own laws. So where I will be living is outside of the reservation, but I will be close to the reservation, so I will have to get to know those policies, those laws, interacting with them. And then this reservation is a very poor reservation. 30% of those living on the reservation do not have indoor plumbing or running water. So the kids that come to this camp are very poor. Some might live on the reservation, spend time there, but even those who don't, this tribe is a very poor tribe in general. So the Navajo people are in desperate need of Jesus Christ. Oops, so sorry. Oh, there we go again, sorry. I gotta wait for the clicker to catch up with me. All right. So what has happened is over the years, many missionaries have gone and tried to convert the Navajo. You have Catholics, you have Mormons. Those are the main ones. And the Navajo also have their animistic beliefs. So what happens is you either have Navajo that completely believe in their own animistic beliefs, or you have Navajo that believe in their animistic beliefs, but also pieces of other religions. And so it gets very confusing when you're talking to them, because you're trying to figure out, what do you believe, or what religion is that? But basically it boils down to, there's a lot of confusion and fear with these people. They need the truth of the gospel. Some of the problems that we face all the time, even with the kids: alcohol, drugs, and abuse. A lot of the kids who come to this camp have these in their lives. Many have been abused. Many have alcohol problems in their homes. Some are transferred to different homes because of the alcohol problems. We've had kids come to the camp and they didn't know it, but they were going to be transferred to another home going back. And so it's a serious problem. So living without true hope, many turn to suicide. This is also a common problem that I run into, the kids who come. I've had multiple kids tell me, either a friend has died, or their dad committed suicide, or they have tried to commit suicide. It's very common. So how do we reach Native Americans for the Lord in New Mexico? There we go. Oh, nope. So first off, this is the church I'll be working with on the camp property. It's Widefield Baptist Church. It's a mission church, meaning right now there's a missionary pastor, but they want a Native man to be the pastor. Problem is, there's not a lot of guys who are qualified. And there's not a lot of guys at all, because a lot of them commit suicide, have accidents. So that is a big prayer request. So this church, there's Sunday services, prayer meeting, just like here. Bible classes, there's Sunday school classes, and then we're looking at starting youth meetings bi-monthly. And then throughout the week, there's men's and women's Bible studies. And then in the summer, there's 2 weeks of Bible camp. We have a junior week and a senior week, where a lot of the kids come from, we caravan them from Arizona, but we also have kids come from New Mexico. Most of them are Native kids. Most of them are Navajo, but you also have some other tribes like Hopi. Sometimes we'll have Hopi, possibly Zuni. And the kids absolutely love this time. They come, they know that they're safe. They know that they're loved, and they hear about the Lord and his love for them. Throughout the year, there's outreach events. There's Easter sunrise service, Harvest Festival, Thanksgiving banquet, Christmas program. And these are to encourage people in the community to come, learn about the church, and learn about the people, and hear the gospel. So one of the things that I have noticed has been one of the biggest areas that I'll be working on is building relationships. Native Americans are very friendly. Well, I should say Navajos. Not all of them are as friendly as Navajos. They are very friendly, and they will laugh, but things go deep with them, and you need to build a relationship of trust. And so right here on this side, these girls started coming, they're teenagers now, but they started coming when they were little girls to the camp, and I built a relationship with them, and they want to come back as counselors, and that's really exciting. And then this lady over here, we have gotten to know each other over the years. She comes to the VBS in Arizona. It's open to kids and adults, and so we have been building a relationship. So God is working in hearts and saving Native Americans. No one is hopeless. No one is beyond God's reach. So these are some who have put their trust in Jesus Christ. So you have Faith right here with her sister, Shania, Simon and Vivian, and Andrea. Simon and Vivian, one is Hopi and one is Navajo. But these kids come from hard backgrounds, a lot of heartache, and so, but they put their trust in Jesus Christ, and now they have a new walk because some of them are from traditional homes where they will not get Christian support. So if you think of it, pray for kids who have gotten saved from these camps. So would you partner with me in reaching Native Americans for the Lord? So what I am doing is I'm going full-time. My full-time job will be working in the lives of these people, sharing the gospel, encouraging them to walk with God, serve in their church, and helping them grow in the Lord. But I can't do that alone. That's a big job. So I would ask first and foremost that you pray. If you would pray for me. It's going to be a huge learning curve. I'll be stepping into a culture that I don't know, into a language I don't know, and I will be in minority and working with people that will be thinking differently than me. And I would just pray that God would open hearts in an amazing way on the reservation. I need help getting there. You know, this will be my full-time, what I'll be working on. So it's not like I can go to town and have a full-time job and also have a full-time job working in people's lives all the time. So I'll need help. But also, we always need help during the summer for camp ministry. And we have a range of people that come. We have teenagers. We have somebody who, she's almost 80 years old. She's been coming for the last 10 or 11 years. And she's an amazing help. She works in the kitchen. She talks with the kids. But it's not a lot of mobile things, you know, sitting and chopping vegetables or talking with kids, but she can help too, and she sees that. So we are always in need of anyone who can come and help with these ministries or even work projects. Come to the camp, help fix buildings. I mean, it's about an 8-acre piece of land, and those 2 missionaries that are there, they take care of everything. They take care of the maintenance, the year-round church, the ministries, and so we can always use help fixing or building things. So I'd just like to leave you with this verse. If you would pray this verse, there's a need for missionaries all over the world, not just to the Navajo, but I would ask that you especially pray for missionaries to the Navajo, because I'm just going, but those missionaries that I'll be working with, they're getting ready to leave. So I need more co-workers. So In the Bible, Jesus says to his disciples, "The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." That is a verse that God used in my heart, and if you pray that, I know he will send out laborers, because that is his desire, that none should perish. All right, so, so does anybody have any questions? Anything you're curious about, wondering about?
If anyone has questions, I can bring the microphone to you so everyone can hear it. Or if you're afraid of the microphone, you don't have to use it.
Yeah, right here.
Arlene.
I'm just curious about the education of the children on the reservation that you'd be working with. I assume they have their own schools. Do you have to learn their cultural language, or I'm just curious.
Yeah. So the first part with the schools, they actually, most of them go to the schools in town, so public schools. They do have a school on the reservation. It's traditional. It teaches them traditional things. But the president of the Navajo Nation just put into effect that all of the kids in the schools are required to learn Navajo, so all the native kids. So that is brand new news within the last couple months. It wasn't required before. It was optional, but now it will be required. So I would love to learn Navajo. I've started. It's a hard language, and the kids don't correct me if I'm wrong. They just giggle. So, but once I'm there, I hope to really get a grip on that. I'm learning a little bit right now, but hopefully immerse in that. Because the oldest generation, they speak primarily Navajo. And then the middle, you have Navajo and English. And then the kids, you have primarily English. But now everybody's going to be speaking Navajo. So yes, I hope to learn it, Lord willing. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything you're curious about that I can try and answer? What's that? What is the biggest need? Mine or theirs? Theirs, well, Jesus Christ, right? Yeah.
I work with Missionary, and the missionary up there was coming out twice a year in El Paso and all the Baptist churches.
Mm-hmm.
And El Paso would have selected clothing and shoes and hygiene
Mm-hmm.
products and things like that. And he bring a semi-truck down twice a year to pick it all up and take it back up to the reservation.
Yeah. Yes, they are, and that's one of the ways that you can kind of edge your way into their lives. I've noticed with one of the missionaries, she's been there over 40 years, and when I've gone with her, like even up to Second Mesa to the Hopis, or when we've gone on the Navajo reservation, they never turn down gifts. So if you bring things that they can use, that starts that friendship, that relationship. So having things on hand to give to them, that's a huge way into their lives. It opens doors. There's nothing that we can really fix for them on the reservation. There's a huge problem with the need for water, which has been being worked on for many years now and is still a problem. When the kids come to camp, we are filling some of their needs. Some of the kids who come, they do not have regular meals. They might not have regular showers. They don't have safe places to be or things to do. We're keeping them out of trouble. We're sharing the gospel. So I guess supplies for camp would be one, because it's an amazing opportunity we have with these kids. Most of the parents are actually glad that the kids are going to this camp to keep them busy during the summer, to give them something to do. And when the kids come, they are glad to be there for the most part. Some teenagers are like, well, because everything's volunteer-based. It's not one of your big camps where you have lots of programs going on. We do have things for them, but the majority of the kids love to come, and the last day of camp, it's interesting because the kids are not themselves. They're sitting around, they're sad, they don't want to do anything because they're leaving camp. So I guess just supplies to work in their lives. I don't know if that answers your question, but And again, I've only been there for summer ministries, so maybe I'll get a better idea of things that would be helpful for them as I'm there year round. So, anybody else?
Yeah. My husband was stationed down in El Paso for 6 years. We often went into New Mexico, and it's a beautiful country down there. And my daughter even wants to go down there and be with people that live down there, the Navajos and stuff. And I was telling her, you know, that you're here today, and she said, well, get all the information you can, Mom. And I will before you leave.
Good.
But it's truly a beautiful place down there, though. And we're glad that you're doing the missionary work that you are doing down there.
Thank you. And it's only because of the Lord, because if I had stayed on my own path, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Kind of. I would say more northern, yep, and straight across the border from the eastern side of Arizona. So it's, yeah, it's a little ways from us. Yeah. Anyone else?
That's a question.
Yeah.
So, how do you do the transportation, and where would you live, and how do you get food?
So the Lord provided a car for me. A couple different people paid for a car for me just recently. And then, so that would be transportation. And then where I'll be living is actually 20 miles south of a town where I would get groceries. So there's stuff there. I would get groceries there. What was the third thing? There was transportation, groceries, and
I said housing, I think.
and housing. So this piece of land, the 8 acres, they have several buildings on this land. There are actually 2 houses on the land, and one has just been vacant. It has been used for storing ministry supplies and Sunday school classes. So they're working on clearing that out for me to be there. So,
Very nice.
yeah. So the Lord's already provided that too. Yeah. God, Samuel.
I was going to ask, what did you study when you went to college?
So actually, in a nutshell, I didn't want to go to college, actually. I was going to have a career and just work. But the Lord used a dear lady from my church who said, hey, you should go to Bible college for a year. I was like, that sounds good. So I started looking around for colleges, and when nothing was working, I was like, okay, never mind. But then God brought along a missionary couple to our house, and I was on my way out to work one night, and he's like, hey, how's the college search going? And I'm like, eh. He's like, have you thought about this college? And that's how the Lord had me hear about International Baptist College. So when I went, I didn't know what God wanted me to do. So on the recommendation of a professor, he's like, hey, why don't you just take like the umbrella one where you take some missions, you take music, you take teaching, you take, I would take like the general things too. Because that way it would apply to any area of life. So mine was in Christian education. And then I also took like some seminars and stuff, but really, I didn't know. So that actually gave a good like spectrum, like, a little bit of everything. So, yeah.
Katie, what is your monthly support needs, and where are you in raising support?
So last year with my mission agency, I went to a training seminar. And what they do is they build an estimate of how much you will need, your cost of living per month. And mine is based on the missionaries who are already, they've been living there for many years. So my need per month is $5,600. Now that is an incredible amount of money to me, but what happens is you break it down. Most of that I don't see, because there will be ministry expenses, there will be taxes, there will be health, there will be retirement, there will be gas, groceries, housing. So everything is included in that. So what I'm at right now, my support level, I need to be at 100% before I go. And praise the Lord, He has brought it up to 45% so far. So once I get to that 100%, then I will be making my way to New Mexico. So. Anybody else?
So you said only 30% of the people had plumbing, or 30% didn't have plumbing?
Sorry, yes, so there's 30% that do not.
So I guess could you tell me more about why they don't? I mean, does the government not provide assistance, or?
Well, they've been working on that, and to the best of what I understand at this point, because I've been doing some research on it too. So the Navajo reservation, so it spans across 3 different states. It's a widespread reservation, and for the pieces that I have seen, it's very barren. So what happens is, with the water need, they would have to dig down really deep, and it would be really expensive because it's really remote. They also have a problem because of the uranium site. So you might have water available in a location, but you don't want to drink it because of the uranium contamination. So that's another problem. So they run into these difficulties, these expenses. I don't know why they're dragging their feet. I don't know why it hasn't been taken care of, but those are some of the issues with bringing water to the families. So these families will take tanks in their trucks and their cars, and they will go to wells. Sometimes they have to drive quite a ways. They might sit in line at the wells, fill up their tanks, bring them home. A recent documentary that I just watched, your typical American will use 80 to 100 gallons of water a day, whereas them on the reservation, they will use 7 gallons a day because they have to conserve it. So it's a huge problem. The water problem is a huge problem. Yeah. All right. I think you should. So where I will be, since it's up on a plateau above 7,000 feet, usually in the summer it's 80s, 90s, but it's a really dry heat. You know, it's pretty comfortable. In the winters, it can actually get pretty chilly. It can be similar to here, but then it can also drop into, 15 degrees, and they have wind. So it makes it feel even colder. They can get snow, just depends on the year, I think. So, yeah. Right, so there's a town, Gallup is a near town to us, about 20 miles north, depending on how the roads are, because we have dirt, we have paved, we have gravel. So that's where we would get our groceries. Yeah, mainly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing to stop it. Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me come and share with you today. Thank you for your questions, and please be praying that God would send more missionaries to Native Americans.